We are almost 2 months into our current Sunday night series. It's entitled Speak Life. As followers of Jesus Christ, there is a lot of good that we can say. Experts estimate that from good morning until good night, we engage in about 30 conversations a day. That's a lot of opportunity to say something good. We know, however, that just because we have an opportunity to say something good doesn't mean that we always make the most of those opportunities, right? When it comes to the words we use, the Bible has a lot to say. I think the series, if it has done nothing else, has reminded us of just how much the Bible talks about the words that we use. We're warned about the danger of lying. It quickly puts us in a position where others are unable to trust us. We are warned about the destructive power of gossip and slander. Those are words that are guaranteed to tear down a relationship. We're warned about the deceitfulness of boasting, flattery, and exaggeration. People don't want to be around someone who just talks about himself or herself, especially if that person embellishes the details just to make himself look better. We are warned about the damage that comes from complaining and criticizing. Those words are like acid. They just corrode the unity of a church family or individual relationships. We're warned about the disrespect of cursing, profanity, and obscenity. The Bible makes it clear we don't need to be in the condemning business. We need to let God take care of that. We are warned not to misuse the name of the Lord our God. God's name is to be used with respect, with reverence. And as far as obscenity and coarse joking is concerned, there's no place for that in the life of a Christian. So we're talking about a lot of work. We're talking about putting a lot of effort into choosing our words. Author Rick Warren says that our lives are like a garden. He says we can tell a lot about the garden and the gardener just by looking at the garden. If we were to walk by a garden, the rows are clear, the plants are thriving, there's not a weed in sight, we might say something like, "They sure have put a lot of time and effort into that garden." And it wouldn't surprise us to find out that the family was gathering quite a harvest out of a garden that looked like that. Warren observes, though, that it takes no effort to grow weeds in a garden. These are his words. He said, "Do you know what's always true of weeds? You don't have to cultivate them. They grow automatically. In fact, weeds are a sign of neglect. If you see weeds in your yard or garden, it means you're not tending it. It's the same with your spiritual life. The weeds in your spiritual life show that you're neglecting time with God. Spend time each day tending to your spiritual garden. Pluck out the weeds as soon as they appear so they don't take over the good work that God wants you to do." I think those are wise words from Rick Warren. The same is going to be true when we start talking about the words that come out of our mouths. It doesn't take any effort to lie. It takes courage to speak the truth in love. It doesn't take any effort to complain or criticize, but it takes attentiveness to compliment and express gratitude. It doesn't take any effort to curse. In fact, as we mentioned last week, most people have already uttered the first curse word by 10:54 each morning. It requires a spirit of humility to bless our enemies rather than to curse them. Listen to the language that people use. It's a key indicator of spiritual health. Now, I didn't say that, Jesus did. Jesus said that in Matthew chapter 12. I want us to begin reading Matthew 12, verses 33 through 37. He says, "Make a tree good, and its fruit will be good. Or make a tree bad, and its fruit will be bad. For a tree is recognized by its fruit. You brood of vipers, how can you who are evil say anything good? For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. A good man brings good things out of the good stored up in him, and an evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in him. But I tell you that everyone will have to give an account on the day of judgment for every empty word they have spoken. For by your words you will be acquitted, and by your words you will be condemned." That's Matthew chapter 12, verses 33 through 37. Jesus makes three key points here. First of all, he says that our speech identifies us. He said, just like a tree is recognized by its fruit, a person is recognized by what he says. Jesus says that our speech reveals our hearts. Whatever it is that has come out of our mouth, it came out because it was first in our hearts. Then Jesus said we will be judged by our speech. Author Joseph Stowell says that all talk is heart talk. Here's what he means by that. He said, our words are such an accurate reflection of our spiritual condition that Christ concludes this section by saying that our words will be the basis for his judgment. We will be held accountable for our words, not because God is a nitpicker, but because our words affirm our inner truth, the truth of our inner condition. When we go to the doctor, a typical question might be, well, what are your symptoms? A cough may prompt our doctor to pursue the idea that the cause could be respiratory. If our stomach hurts, the problem could be digestive. If we fell, we have a huge gash over our eye, well, that requires a different approach. In the same way, our words can indicate a heart problem. For the remainder of our study, I want us to look at 3 heart problems that can overflow into the words we use. The first heart problem would be the proud heart. Now, spiritually speaking, pride is the elevation of self at the expense of God and his glory. It results in a self-serving lifestyle. Pride just simply has no place, no room for God. Pride takes credit for what God has done and what God has given. There's a direct connection between pride and negative speech. Let's dive into some scripture here. Psalm chapter 10, verses 2 through 7. That's Psalm 10, verses 2 through 7. The psalmist writes, "In his arrogance the wicked man hunts down the weak, who are caught in the schemes he devises. He boasts about the cravings of his heart. He blesses the greedy and reviles the Lord. In his pride, the wicked man does not seek him. In all his thoughts, there is no room for God. His ways are always prosperous. Your laws are rejected by him. He sneers at all his enemies. He says to himself, nothing will ever shake me. He swears, no one will ever do me harm. His mouth is full of lies and threats. Trouble and evil are under his tongue." That's Psalm chapter 10, verses 2 through 7. Now, there's a great picture there of of a proud man that's overcome by pride to the point God has just been completely pushed out of the picture. Let's also, though, I want you to write down these verses because they're important for some additional study for us. In Proverbs chapter 8, the wise man says that arrogance leads to evil behavior and perverse speech. Psalm chapter 12 says that flattery is closely connected to pride. Psalm 59 says that proud people slander righteous people. Romans chapter 1 says that arrogant people tend to gossip. Psalm 73 says that scoffing, malice, and oppressive threats are byproducts of a proud spirit. Finally, Proverbs chapter 13 tells us that pride is a prime breeding ground for quarrels and disagreements. So man, just look at some of the problems that come about when you're talking about this person with a proud heart. This pride, this arrogance, it leads to evil behavior, perverse speech, flattery, slander, gossip, scoffing, malice, oppressive thoughts, quarrels, and disagreements. All of those come about because we have a proud heart. Let's look at a second heart problem, and this one would be an angry heart. Anger is a powerful emotion. We know that. It has the capacity for destruction in so many levels, whether it's personally, in relationships, in the church. Anger can be vented. That means the anger has to come out, and it can be vented in a number of different ways. But most often, anger is vented, it is expressed in our words. Hatred and bitterness are the poisonous fruit of long-term unresolved anger. I want to read a series of verses here. They're all from the book of Proverbs. And so as I do, listen again. We want to make connections between the heart and the lips. The connection between this heart problem and how it manifests itself in the words that we use. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 12. Hatred stirs up conflict, but love covers all wrongs. That's Proverbs 10:12. Chapter 10, verse 18 says, whoever conceals hatred with lying lips and spreads slander is a fool. Proverbs chapter 15, verse 18. A hot-tempered person stirs up conflict, but the one who is patient calms a quarrel. Proverbs 24, verse 28 tells us, do not testify against your neighbor without a cause. Would you use your lips to mislead? Do not say, I'll do to them as they have done to me. I'll pay them back for what they did. Proverbs 29, verse 22 says, an angry person stirs up conflict, and a hot-tempered person commits many sins. And then finally to Proverbs chapter 30, verse 33. For as churning cream produces butter, and as twisting the nose produces blood, so stirring up anger produces strife. That's Proverbs 30, verse 33. I've often heard it said that anger is one letter short of danger, and we should pay particular attention to that. Anger, by the wrong person, at the wrong place, at the wrong time, in the wrong way, can be dangerous to a relationship. Anger fits in that same category with hatred and bitterness. Regardless of the exact word we use, it often, I keep using this word, it vents itself. It's like that emotion. It has to come out, and it vents itself in the words we use. I want us to look at one more heart problem. Not the prideful heart, not the angry heart. This time, I want us to look at the fearful heart. When Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself," he said a mouthful. Fear has the ability to manipulate not only our tongues, but also entire nations, races, cultures. Fear appears in many different forms. We can fear for our safety or survival. We can be afraid of losing things like position and reputation, family and friends, wealth and health, or happiness. These fears can cripple us and lead us into many sins, including sins of the tongue. When the 12 spies returned to Moses, we remember this, 12 spies in Canaan's land, 10 were bad and 2 were good. 10 brought back a bad report about the promised land. Now, they all agreed the land was wonderful. But there were 10 that said the people are just too big. There's no way that we can capture, there's no way that we can win a battle against that group of people. There were 2 that remained faithful that said, no, we can go in. We should do this. We can capture them. God's been with us the whole way. He'll take care of us. But it was the fearful heart, and it was that idea of fear that led to the words that people used, that led to this bad report. And those words of fear, that bad report, it spread all across the people like this dense blanket of fog. Their fear led them to rebellion. Man, it led them to a point that they just wanted to get rid of Moses and Aaron, and they wanted to go back to Egypt. Their fear led to complaining and criticizing, and it led to them spending 40 years wandering in the wilderness. In the Gospels, religious leaders feared losing their places of authority among the people. So they schemed a plan to have Jesus arrested and to have him put to death. After Jesus was arrested, Peter stood by a fire. He was warming his hands, and someone asked, "Well, weren't you with him?" And it was at that point that fear seized Peter. And rather than speaking courageously for Jesus, rather than speaking boldly, rather than taking up for Jesus, as Peter had vowed to do, that fear seized him, and he denied knowing Jesus, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Sometimes people threaten others with abusive speech because they feel fearful or they're insecure. The fear of getting caught can lead to deceit, if not just outright lying. Fear of the loss of friendship or attention, it can lead us to flattery or exaggeration because we just don't want to lose that friendship. You know, we're reaching a point in our series where a lot of us are thinking, boy, I really need to work on some things. I need to work on my language. I need to be more careful about the words that I use. I understand that we need to address some symptoms, but let's don't stop there, because remember, what comes out of our mouth is an overflow of our heart. Don't just address the symptom without addressing the core problem. And so let's think about what might be the heart problem that needs to be addressed while we are addressing some symptoms. Again, let's take these 3 examples tonight of the of the proud heart, the angry heart, and the fearful heart. Let's use those and let's carry those out to how they might be treated. Well, we would want to treat a prideful heart with Proverbs chapter 18, verse 12. Before a downfall, the heart is haughty, but humility comes before honor. And so we want to treat a prideful heart with humility. So we look at the words we're using, we find out that those words in the overflow of our heart, it seems to be pointing to a prideful heart. So we need to make an effort to work on humility. We want to study what humility is about and why it's so important in the life of a Christian, a follower of Jesus Christ. And so we want to be a people who practice humility. How would we treat an angry heart? Well, we would treat an angry heart with a spirit of forgiveness. In Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26, Paul wrote, "In your anger do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry, and do not give the devil a foothold." Go down just a couple of verses, down to verse 32. "Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you." That's Ephesians chapter 4, verses 26 and 27, and then verse 32. So when we have this angry heart, we need to find out, what is this response that has caused us to be so angry? Well, when it's anger, we need to have a spirit of forgiveness. So what do we do with this fearful heart? Well, we need a solid dose of faith. I'm reminded of Isaiah chapter 43, the first couple of verses in that chapter. "Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. When you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze." We treat a prideful heart with humility. We treat an angry heart with a spirit of forgiveness. And we treat a fearful heart with a full dose of faith. Some of our greatest advances in medicine have come in the treatment of the heart. Medication, heart catheterizations, stents, even to heart transplants. Man, doctors and researchers continue to develop new and better ways to deal with heart sickness and heart disease. That's the physical heart. God's been in this business of healing our spiritual hearts throughout the Bible. That is why David prayed in Psalm 51, verse 10, "Create in me a pure heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit within me." Create in me a clean heart, a pure heart, O God. Boy, we're getting rid of old problems like pride and anger and fear. It's not going to be easy, but it will be worthwhile. Because when we get rid of those things and we replace that with humility, a spirit of forgiveness, and faith, when we let that reign in our hearts, then what we will find out is what then overflows out of our hearts, out of our mouths, it'll be to speak, words that are pleasing to God, words that are helpful and are encouraging to those around us.